In 2003, researchers scanning the floor of the Sea of Galilee with sonar noticed something strange. Roughly a kilometer from the shoreline, sitting beneath 10 meters of water, was a massive cone-shaped structure built by human hands. When archaeologists from the University of Haifa published their analysis in 2013, they estimated it weighed around 32,000 tons, heavier than the Eiffel Tower. Older, they believe, than Stonehenge. Nobody knew it was there. You've heard of the Exodus, a man raised in a palace, 10 plagues, a sea that parted, 40 years wandering a desert. But there's a question buried underneath that story, one that has divided archaeologists and biblical scholars for over a century. When did the Exodus happen? It sounds like a simple question. It is not. Because depending on your answer, the entire story either lines up with history or it doesn't. The Bible gives you a number. 1 Kings chapter 6, verse 1 says, Solomon began building the temple in Jerusalem in the 480th year after the Israelites left Egypt. If Solomon started construction around 966 BC, which most historians agree on, you count backward 480 years. That lands at approximately 1446 BC. This is what scholars call the early Exodus theory. It would place the Exodus under Pharaoh Thutmose III. Most mainstream scholars reject it. Instead, they point to Exodus chapter 1, verse 11. The Israelites were forced to build supply cities, including one called Ramesses. Ramesses was a capital city constructed by Ramesses II, who ruled from 1279 to 1213 BC. If the Israelites were building his city, the Exodus happened around 1250 BC, 200 years later than the biblical number. Two dates, two completely different sets of evidence to test. In 1896, British Egyptologist Flinders Petrie found a black granite slab in the ruins of Merneptah's mortuary temple near Luxor. Carved around 1208 BC, it was a victory hymn celebrating Egyptian campaigns across Canaan. Near the end, one line reads, Israel is laid waste, its seed is not. This is the earliest mention of Israel in any ancient document outside the Bible. By 1208 BC, Israel was already in Canaan, established enough to appear in a royal Egyptian inscription. That sets a hard ceiling. Whatever date you assign the Exodus, the Israelites had to be out of Egypt, through the desert, and settled in Canaan before 1208 BC. Under the Ramesses theory, the Exodus happened around 1250 BC. That gives the Israelites 40 years to complete a journey the Bible says took 40 years, then conquer an entire land, then become famous enough for Egypt to record. Very tight, almost impossible tight. Under the early date, 1446 BC, there are 300 years before the Merneptah Stele. Room enough for a nation to take shape. So you go to Canaan and look for the conquest. Jericho is the natural starting point, Joshua chapter 6. Walls fall, a city burns. The question is simple. Does Jericho show a destruction around 1250 BC? Kathleen Kenyon excavated Jericho extensively in the 1950s. Her finding was devastating for the conventional timeline. Jericho was largely unoccupied during the Late Bronze Age, between 1550 and 1200 BC. No significant city, no walls to fall. But in an earlier layer, dating to around 1400 BC, she found burned grain, collapsed mud brick, and a city abandoned suddenly without time to pack. That destruction is far more consistent with 1446 BC than with 1250 BC. Travel north now into the hills above the Sea of Galilee. From the 13th through the 12th centuries BC, Canaanite city-states begin to collapse. Scholars call it the Late Bronze Age collapse. Egypt weakened. The Hittite Empire vanished. Dozens of fortified cities across Canaan were abandoned or destroyed. In the same period, hundreds of small unfortified villages appear across the Galilean highlands. These villages share one specific feature archaeologists use as an ethnic marker: the four-room house, an architectural style virtually unknown in Canaanite culture. It appears suddenly in enormous numbers, and in these villages, almost no pig bones. Canaanite sites typically have them. These do not. Israel Finkelstein, an archaeologist at Tel Aviv University, who has spent decades mapping these early sites, identifies this wave as the emergence of early Israel. These people were not Canaanites. Their architecture, material culture, and diet are distinct. They appear at roughly the right time to be a people who, a generation or two earlier, came through a desert. Then there is Egypt itself. At Tel el-Dabya in the Nile Delta, the site of ancient Avaris, Austrian archaeologist Manfred Bietak has excavated for decades. During the Middle Bronze Age, from roughly 1800 to 1550 BC, Avaris held a massive Semitic population, non-Egyptian in burial practices, architecture, and culture. Tens of thousands of people, and then abruptly gone. Their disappearance lines up with the expulsion of the Hyksos, a Semitic group that had ruled parts of Egypt for over a century, driven out by Pharaoh Ahmose I around 1550 BC. The biblical timeline places the Israelites arriving in Egypt during the era of Joseph, exactly when Semitic people were thriving in the Delta under Hyksos rule. No single discovery closes the case, but the picture from Avaris, from Jericho, from the highland villages of Galilee, from the Merneptah Stele, points consistently toward a people who were in Egypt, who left, who arrived in Canaan, and who became the nation Egypt called Israel. One more thing worth knowing: Egypt did not record defeats. Pharaoh's image required victories. A disaster like the one described in Exodus, 10 plagues, a drowned army, a mass departure of an enslaved workforce, would have been precisely the kind of event the official record would erase. The silence of Egyptian sources is not surprising. It is exactly what you would expect. You carry a version of the story. Maybe you learned it in church. Maybe you were told archaeologists had debunked it entirely. Both versions are incomplete. The one that archaeology is slowly assembling is stranger, older, and more textured than either of them asks you to hold. The Sea of Galilee boat, found in 1986 when a drought dropped the water level and exposed the ancient lake bed, was 2,000 years old. Lying in plain sight on the bottom of the lake the whole time, waiting for the water to go down. The 32,000-ton Bronze Age monument was always there too, sitting in the dark a mile from shore. Some things do not disappear. They just wait for the water to drop low enough that you can finally see them.